Welcome back, and today we're talking about IWGP episode 4. So like always, let's just jump into it. Episode 4 of IWGP. I feel like this is the best episode that we've gotten so far, and I'm glad I got to see this episode. I'm glad I didn't drop it on episode 3 because I was really invested in this episode. I like the story and the darker tone that this episode was telling. Now, if you've seen my previous videos, you know that I've definitely been disappointed by this anime. I expected a lot more into the whole gang life, right? I expected a lot more violence, not a extension of the police force that the G-Boys are, right? Because they're like the good gang members. They're definitely just helping out the police, but staying outside of the law, being able to do stuff that the police won't be able to do. But this episode, it was a little bit different. We see that the G-Boys were not really involved in this episode. It was all about Makoto and him kind of reminiscing about his father who passed away five years ago, and finding this person, a father named Najo, that lost his son about 5 years ago as well. His son was the leader of the Apollo gang, and he was murdered. We don't know exactly what happened. So Makoto kind of takes up the case and starts investigating. Now, I like this side of the episode because, again, it is a darker tone. We're dealing with an actual murder that happened because of gang-related stuff. So when Makoto starts investigating the Apollo gang, we see that they're not really cooperating, right? They're not really willing to talk about what happened to Tochi, and that seems very realistic, right? I don't think gang members would talk to an outsider about the leader that died, right? I don't think that would be the case. So much that essentially Makoto was banned from coming to that, I think the town name was Unoe or something along those lines. He got jumped, and I like the fact that Makoto, he got beat up, right? It was 4 against 1. I don't care how strong you are or how good you are at fighting. If you're fighting against 4 people that kind of know what they're doing, I don't see you winning that fight. So the fact that Makoto, he got laid out, it was awesome. You know, he took an L and he accepted it. And his mother even saying that Makoto, you know, he gets into fights a lot and he's always kind of looking all beat up was a very awesome moment. So I think Makoto, the reason why he started investigating this thing is because, you know, he probably doesn't know what happened to his father, right? And I don't know if it could be gang related or something along those lines. Maybe that's the reason why Makoto doesn't want to join the G-Boys, because he doesn't want to follow his father's footsteps in joining a gang and being part of that gang life, right? Because it could get violent and you could potentially lose your life like Toshi did. Now, this whole investigation that Makoto was doing eventually led him to talk to the new leader of the Apollo gang, and that's when we found out that Tochi was a very violent person, right? He would just snap and you would not know what would happen, right? Like Toshi could beat you up, hurt you. He could do some bad stuff. Heck, and this is the part that kind of did it for me in this episode, is whenever the new leader kind of revealed that Tochi was beating up on Harumi, his girlfriend, who supposedly has his son, right? That to me was definitely a no-no moment, because I really hate men that beat up on women. That's definitely a no-no area for me. That was definitely messed up. So I really did not feel any sympathy for Tochi dying, right? And him being murdered. At first, I thought the gang was the people that were responsible for murdering him, because they, you know, the new leader did say that if Toshi would have stayed in power of the gang essentially would have fallen apart, because I mean, people would have started picking sides. It would have been like a revolution within the gang, and probably a lot of violence would have ensued. So honestly, I thought the reason why the Apollo gang members didn't want to talk about it, they were just trying to bury it, is because maybe they were responsible for killing Tochi. But we later found out that was not the case. We see that Harumi, she fell in love with another person, another gang member. His name was Kaiji or something like that, and she had his baby. So the son that Najo thinks is his grandson is not really his grandson. And whenever Toshi found out about this whole situation, he beat her up. It was a very bad scene. Again, no sympathy for what happened to Toshi. I feel like he should have had a lot worse coming. I do feel bad for Najo, right? Najo losing his son like that, not knowing how bad his son was. He was hearing rumors about it, but I guess he never really believed it. So the fact that he was trying to get answers, and this is the answers that he got, honestly, I do feel bad for Najo, because imagine thinking, finding out that your son was a violent person, right? Yeah, he was part of a gang, but he never really knew how far it went, right? So finding out that your son is really violent, finding out that your son was beating up on women, it was really a bad moment for him, and it was really sad. I really did feel bad for Najo, and no parent should ever have to go through that, right? Seeing your kid die before you, that no parent should ever have to do that, especially in the way that Toshi went out. We find out that Toshi was kind of walking, and he rubbed shoulders with somebody, and it just led to an altercation where Toshi was beating up on the guy, and the dude's wife or girlfriend at the time pushed him off the stairs, and he hit his head and he died. It was like an accident. You could say it was self-defense, but they never really turned themselves in. And whenever they came and revealed the truth to Najo, and they were saying, no, we're gonna turn ourselves in, we're gonna wait till she has the baby, we see that person really did feel guilty, right? She was coming and visiting the place where he died, and she was definitely looking over the family. She did feel bad. She was gonna turn herself in, and Najo kind of said, you know what, just forget it. My son, he wasn't the best person out there. We really can't have you with a child, delivering that child and then heading to prison. That child deserves to have a mother. And I feel like the reason why that scene turned out the way it did is because early on in the episode, we find out that Najo kind of raised his son by himself. So maybe he kind of realized, look, my son was a violent person, right? He was beating up Harumi, his girlfriend, which again is a big no-no, right? He started beating up on a civilian, on somebody that had nothing to do with gang relations, on an innocent person, right? And caused him his death, right? He was being violent, and that's why he died, self-defense. So really, he kind of accepted the fact that his son was not a good person and said, don't even worry about it. Don't turn yourself in. Just be the best mother that you can be. So he's probably thinking, if his mom of that kid goes to prison, then that kid might grow up to be exactly like Toshi, and that's not what he wants. So I like the fact that Najo accepted the fact that his son was not a good person. And then Makoto kind of reassuring to Najo that, if Makoto was Najo's son, he would be proud of him for what he did. And it was a very awesome episode. I did like this episode because, again, it was a darker story. And that's what I want to see more. Hopefully, episode 5 and on, it gets a lot darker. And hopefully we get that gang war between the Red Angels and the G-Boys, because from the opening, we know it's going to happen. We see Takeshi and the leader of the Red Angels fighting. So it's coming. I know it's coming. Hopefully it comes a lot sooner than later, because I honestly, if the next episode goes back to the G-Boys protecting another vlogger, I'm gonna lose my mind. I'm gonna lose my mind. Hopefully they keep the darker tone, they keep the darker stories, and I think this anime will be okay. But overall, great episode. Let me know what you thought of this episode in the comments down below. And like always, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you on the next episode.